This is Young Gun, a podcast about Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers. I'm Demetri and Lauren, a Bama grad. She is Lauren Brownlow, the biggest Panthers fan I know, and we are following the team with a microscope on its new franchise quarterback. You can see the recording situation a little bit different this week, and you can probably hear in my voice, crazy sick, don't want to get Lauren sick. And this, Lauren, has shockingly nothing to do with the Panthers' play. This is just a virus going around, as opposed to this team slowly trying to kill us all.
Yeah, very slowly and agonizingly so, because there's nothing to look for hopeful on the horizon. There's nothing to go, oh, at least that's coming. What's coming? What is my hope?
And this is kind of the problem too, because not only is it what is your hope, it is on a day like today. What is the point in even looking back with a critical eye on the Bears game? Because A, it was a Thursday night game. It's so far in the past. And B, it's the same old.
Forgotten it. Right.
No, I haven't either. But it's like, we know the story, right? As the game goes on, Bryce gets more frustrated and his balls look Freudian slip, look worse and worse the entire time. The running game can't get going. There's no protection. The defense plays as hard as they can until
they wear down. Yep.
Yeah, there is this letdown, whether it is physical and maybe too a little bit emotional of these really talented guys wondering what's the point anymore.
Right. What's the point? Yeah, they wear down 100%. I mean, and also it's just like, it's not a smart football team. They make mistake after mistake after mistake. And it's mind numbing because you're like, you can't afford to do this. And yet there they are, like, getting some sort of procedural penalty or whatever it is, like, right out of the gate. I mean, it was a Thursday night. There were so many things I could have been watching. The Big Brother finale was live. I didn't like the season, but it was going to enrage me less than the Panthers game. There were so many things I could have been doing with my Thursday night. All of us could have. And instead, we had to watch that team embarrass us all on television yet again. It's not even the first time they've done it on national TV as the only game this season. Like,
I will acknowledge.
I'm tired of it.
I will acknowledge, for me, what made it all the more frustrating was having to fight with Amazon the whole time just to get the game to look like it would on normal television. Listen, I get this is the way sports is going on television. Streaming is a thing that we all have to put up with. But my God, the game just looked bad on Amazon.
That's it. We had different experiences. I don't know why. I mean, generally, if there's any sort of streaming,
I can tell you exactly why. Two teenagers that are also taking up all the bandwidth in this house.
Okay, that's probably why. Yes, but I'm sure you're not alone in that either.
No, for sure.
They definitely weren't ready for the overload, probably, of people wanting to watch.
Certainly not for this game. Before we dive into the bulk of the show, we do have to tell you that every week, Young Gun is brought to you by the fine folks at Graffiti. I hope they think that the show was a good investment. Certainly, this football team is not. 158 East Cedar Street in downtown Cary. It is where Lauren and I like to watch football because they've got 19 TVs there ready for you each and every Sunday. Not just with the TVs, but with the drink specials as well. Those bourbon pour specials at $10, $9, and $8. There they are up on the screen right now. You can find exactly what it is you want to drink and exactly the kind of watching experience you want. Maybe you're a diehard fan that you're locked into every game. You're not going to miss it on those 19 TVs. Maybe you are a casual fan that likes to socialize while you watch a game. Totally fine. Don't know why you're listening to this podcast, but totally fine. Also, there is those axe throwing lanes outside of NFL Sundays. Graffiti is just a party, man. Did you see they have Boy Band Madness coming up this week? Oh,
that's exciting. I love that.
I thought about texting you and saying, let's go. And then I started to feel like hot garbage. So go and enjoy it for me, I suppose.
I will. Maybe we'll see. We'll see how I'm feeling. I haven't been feeling so great myself the last couple of years, so I don't know that I'm going anywhere. But when I do try to go to Graffiti, among other places, because I love it there.
158 East Cedar Street in downtown Cary. If you've not experienced a football Sunday at Graffiti, do it this Sunday for the first time. All right, Lauren Brownlow, we start the show every week by asking, was Bryce too short this week? Do we even need to ask? I mean, he was not even throwing tight spirals by the second quarter of that game.
No, No, yeah, it was bad. It was, I don't know that had anything to do with his height specifically, right? But yeah, no, I mean,
he certainly didn't look like he was old enough to be playing NFL quarterback. I mean, there's got to be some correlation there.
I did text you before the game when they were showing, is it Bagant? Is that how you say his name?
Bagent.
Tyson Bagant. Bagent, excuse me. I'm mad I even have to learn this. It's the Panthers' fault that I do. Okay.
After I recorded with Taylor last week, she texted me a pronunciation guide. And I texted her back, I don't think I'm ever going to use that again, but thank you.
Well, I mean, you know, whatever. It's fine. But they were both warming up, and I was like, I want to hand them both skateboards. Because they had the hoodies on, right? Like the brown hoodies, and they're warming up, and they both look quite young. So it was like, I just wanted to hand them skateboards and let them go do some tricks for me.
Tyson Bagent looks like a tall version of Michael Cera circa Superbad.
I feel like he doesn't have the innocent eyes. Like
that's because his father's a professional arm wrestler. Did you hear a million times during the broadcast?
I didn't. I probably wasn't listening very much through all my swears, all the swearing I was doing.
All right, let's dive into something that at least has been the focus of my week on social media, because I tweeted this out during the game that I can't believe I'm saying this, but at this point you have to bench Bryce Young. This is actually setting him back the way this team is playing. Certainly his play is a problem as well, but you combine that tweet with the rant I unleashed last week about the idea of wanting SamHowell for the long term over Bryce being absurd. And Lauren, the DMs have been busy this week. The DMs have been busy with people that seem to think my mind is going to change. But either way, I do think we're at a crossroads here of people already were not feeling the trade because of how much was given up. Certainly what CJStroud is doing does not help.
And that's a conversation worth having, right?
Absolutely.
Like, you can't go back and change it. They made the trade. And so at that point, it's its own decision.
Yeah.
And once you've made that trade, like, you're going to pick one of those guys. We all understand that.
I would also argue that I think it is fair to say that there is no quarterback, regardless of your situation, that is worth that kind of trade package for. No rookie quarterback, I should say, that is worth that kind of trade package for.
Well, it all depends on what you already have, I think, at least a little bit. But the Panthers didn't already have enough, right, to make you think that would be worth doing. It's not like they had a bunch of weapons on their roster and they were like, well, we just need the quarterback. Like, that's not the case. It was never the case. And so for them to trade away first-round draft capital, it just never made any sense.
No, for sure. And this is sort of what because I've been thinking on this all weekend of how to phrase this exactly, because I don't think I'm wrong. I would still rather have Bryce than SamHowell for the long term. That being said, I do think that you can look at CJStroud and say, was he better prepared to come into the NFL? Yeah, probably. But he would be coming into the exact same situation that Bryce Young was if he were a Panther.
I don't think that he would be doing that much better than Bryce Young is doing right now. That's not because I don't think he's better. He certainly looks better right now. It's because I don't know how this is a situation where anyone except for maybe one or two quarterbacks could thrive, or survive even, much less thrive. You know what I mean? Like, maybe Cam Newton at some points in his career would have done more with it, maybe. But again, he dealt with plenty like this too. Like, actually, Bryce has some better receivers, maybe even than Cam did at times. But his O-line is significantly whatever. The point is, this is not a situation meant for anyone to thrive in offensively. So unless you've got a guy back there that's like a miracle worker at quarterback, it's not going to happen for you. It's just not, because the personnel is not good enough.
So here's what I'll say about my SamHowell take last week. Where I did go overboard is he will be a starter for somebody going forward. He will be. I still don't think it's going to be in Washington. I think a new owner is going to come in and want to put his own stamp on the franchise. That is not a matter of how Sam is playing at all. That is just, billionaire mindset.
It's that franchise. Like, hello.
Yeah, and that's also very fair. It's that franchise.
Where quarterbacks go to not do well long term.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The other thing I think you have to point out in the scenario where SamHowell is drafted by the Carolina Panthers is we are still talking about Dave Tepper firing Matt Rule. And that probably comes with a full-on reset. I mean, look, the Panthers did draft Matt Corral. They could have followed the same path. I don't think Corral was as talented as SamHowell, but They got the same kind of quarterback, and
they
didn't even
traded
give
up
the
to
guy a
draft him
chance. Right.
as well. They could
Right.
have, but they could have drafted him there. Yes, they absolutely could have drafted him in that round.
Yeah,
And
but they
they
didn't
didn't.
even they got a late round quarterback, or a mid round quarterback, I guess is more fair, and didn't even give him a chance. I don't think it would have been any different with Sam Howell. And again, that is not a reflection on Howell. That is a reflection of the reality of the
Right.
situation.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree. Like, if you want to go back to that point and say that's who they could have had, like, okay, fine. Like, we can all agree they've made a ton of bad decisions, but I mean, you could. Why aren't we throwing LamarJackson into this mix? Why is no one doing that?
Yeah, very fair. Very fair.
To me, that's because that is an answer. He is a franchise quarterback. If you don't know that at this point, then you probably got other reasons to feel that way.
I mean, honestly, if you are going to put together that kind of trade package, like, shouldn't LamarJackson, rather than a rookie, be the kind of
he's
target?
One of the only quarterbacks that I think is capable of making plays, but with an offense this terrible. Right?
You know why you think that? Because he did that already.
Yeah, he's done it. He did it at Louisville. He's done it with Baltimore as well. Like, we've seen it. We've seen him carry teams before. And to be fair, you did see some of that at Alabama with Bryce. Maybe it was a little more exaggerated, because what's a bad team for Bama ain't a bad team for most people. Like, let's be real. So maybe that's part of it too.
That is totally real. Don't forget, each and every Tuesday night, you can see the show on Origin Sports Television. It is one of the fast channels. If you have Samsung TV Plus, Roku, Xumo, Amazon Freevee, you have Origin Sports TV. We are on every Tuesday night at 7. It is an abbreviated version of this show if you're used to getting it on YouTube or a podcast platform. But we do hope you'll take the time to watch, because we would like to be on that network for as long as they would have us. So if you have not watched us on Origin Sports yet, make time to do so this week. By the way, Lauren, I believe we come on Origin Sports at a replay right before college football on Saturday as well.
Ooh, that's cool. I love that.
Yeah, somehow my son has set our TV, as soon as you turn it on, to immediately go to Origin.
Oh, smart.
Yes, and at 11 o'clock on Saturday, there we were. So who knows? Let's dive into a report from Dianna Russini, who you probably know from ESPN. She is now with The Athletic. She had a report late in the week last week about the state of things with a lot of teams, but she led off with Dave Tepper and the Carolina Panthers, and she reported some stuff that we already knew. Dave Tepper is not happy with the offense. He wants to see more improvement. This is something that I never knew about Tepper before. He openly acknowledges that he is impatient when it comes to his coaches. Like, I did not realize he was that.
Look at his history.
Yeah.
Look at even his soccer team.
Yeah. By the way, do you think it is fair to say the Panthers have had 5 head coaches in 5 years? I don't think you can count the interims.
I don't think you can count Steve Wilkes, only because it was very clear from the jump that David Tepper was never going to take him seriously, because he's not a big, shiny football name that all his friends would be impressed by.
Yeah.
So, no, I almost don't count that.
So
sadly.
Here are the things that I thought were...
Because it was their most successful coach in his tenure, was the one he didn't actually want.
Right. Here are the things out of the report that I did think were interesting. The entire front office, at least according to Rossini's report, is still bought in on the idea that Bryce is the guy. They are unhappy with the coaching situation right now. But even more shocking was that what Scott Fitterer loved about FrankReich was the Philadelphia Eagles Super Bowl run of 2017, which, correct me if I'm wrong, Lauren, was not last year.
No, it was ooh, that's 6 years. Oh.
6 years ago.
6
years ago. And look, that was an impressively called Super Bowl. That was a very good offensive team that pivoted on a dime when they lost what they thought was their franchise quarterback in the middle of the season. But it's not like there hasn't been tape of what Reich's flaws as a head coach were between now and then.
Right. And I think, look, I think my biggest issue with Reich so far too is that I don't see them trying anything different.
Yeah.
Like, what? Throw something at the wall and see if it sticks. When they attempted a 59-yard field goal in that game, I almost threw something. Like, you are 1-7. Why are you doing that? Just go for it. Like, stop with this.
It is, to your point about it's so painfully conservative of game plan, is it really kind of flies in the face of what we were hearing about the staff he was building up in the preseason, right? FrankReich, former NFL quarterback. Josh McCown, former NFL quarterback. Thomas Brown, up-and-coming offensive play caller with the respect. Bomani pointed this out on the talk through a couple of weeks ago. Whether or not he has ever called plays before, the fact that Thomas Brown had the Sean McVay stamp of approval and was given assistant head coaching duties by Sean McVay speaks to the fact that he certainly understands X and O football. There was a lot of reason to be optimistic about how all in they were on making this work for a young quarterback, and it doesn't seem to be showing up on the field.
No, it doesn't. And you don't see anything innovative or different at all. That's the other, like you said, it's so conservative. I mean, it's like you might as well have Brian Ferenz out there calling the offense. It feels like. I mean, I'm not trying to exaggerate, but at the same time, that's what that is how inept the offense looks at times. Like it just is. They can't run the ball. The offensive line looks awful. Like half the time he drops back, he doesn't have time to throw. When he does have time, I think he panics a little too soon. Now and that's what I'm concerned about, right? Is that the breakdowns on the offensive line, the lack of receivers to throw to. He doesn't trust anybody on this team right now. And that's hard to do when you're the quarter. You have to trust your receiver's going to be where you think they're supposed to be. You have to trust that somebody's going to pick up that blitz. Why would he trust that at this point? Like he's been betrayed and let down over and over again.
Yeah, to your point about you've got to trust someone is going to pick up the blitz. I think also the fact that he's got to
get rid of it.
Hits. Yeah, I mean, like he definitely took hits at Alabama, right? Like this is not brand new to him, but I have not like
they're violent. They're more violent now.
Games. Well, not only are they more violent, he is more reticent to take them now, and so you see things like just those. I mean. Physically ugly passes that he threw on Thursday night, like passes that looked like he was just learning what American tackle football was. And that, that cannot persist. Speaking of the midweek talk through, it comes out each and every Thursday. It is me and somebody that is following the NFL with a more analytical eye. This week, we are going to dive into offensive line play. We don't have a guest set quite yet, but we are going to get into the offensive line of it all. Wherever you get this podcast, you can also get the midweek talk through. It drops each and every Thursday here as part of Young Gun. Lauren, we've talked a lot about the offensive line. We obviously talk a lot about Bryce on this podcast. I think that we have been not critical enough of how bad the run game is. And I know a lot of that has to do with
I might have, line. To be fair. I did I made up an acronym for Miles Sanders, but yeah.
That's true, but I do think that, and look, I'm just as guilty of this as you are, so don't think that I'm saying this is you, but like, I think the change from Sanders to Hubbard, like we put so much on Sanders because of what he makes that we give Chuba Hubbard a benefit of the doubt that he has not earned. Like the run game has been straight up bad this year. Real quick, before you dive in, let me just throw some stats out there. Bottom quarter of the league in yards per game, just over 90 yards per game. Number 26 in yards per carry, just under 4, which that's not actually terrible. But when you consider that the lead... Yeah, I am too, because here's the thing. When you look at the leading rusher stats for games that have been played this season, in 3 games, the leading rusher for the Panthers has had less than 30 yards. In 5 games, the leading rusher for the Panthers has had less than 50 yards. In no game has a running back topped 100 yards on the ground in this season. This running game is it's hopelessly bad.
Right. It puts even more on your quarterback as well. And that's obviously like, yes, you would love to have a good running game, but that's the reason is because they have to worry about it, and they don't have to worry about it. They just don't, because it's not threatening. And yeah, I mean, that's part of it. I don't know if it's blocking. I don't know if it's the backs. I don't know if it's a combination of the two. And I want to be a little fair to Miles Sanders. I was seeing some rumblings that he might have been playing hurt a little earlier this year. And so, I get that may have been why he wasn't performing quite as well. And look, if we're going to give the pass not a pass, but if we're going to kind of put it in context with Bryce about what he's dealing with, I think it's also fair to put it in context with these two a little bit too, of like, but at the same time, it's frustrating to watch. It just feels like they have no way to generate anything resembling a running game. And obviously Bryce is not necessarily capable of adding that. I think we've learned that as well. And that's, not frustrating, but I mean, it would help. right?
Yeah, I mean, I think what we have seen in the last 2 weeks is that Bryce is capable of picking up a first down for you on a scramble. He is not the kind
Yes.
of quarterback you design a run game for.
You don't, he's not going to get design runs, no.
I wonder how much of the run game's problem is the combination of the line, and I don't just mean the lack of quality, I mean the injuries on the line,
Yeah.
and also, again, that conservative playbook. I mean, I don't know that I have seen Miles Sanders or Chuba Hubbard, hell, or Raheem Blackshear for that matter, take the ball on a pitch more than
Right.
half a dozen times total
Up the
this
middle.
season.
Right up the middle,
every
isn't it?
time.
And I was going to say, like, if I gave you, like, how many times on first down have they run it up the middle? I'd love to go through a play-by-play and see. I bet you it's almost every time. You know who else knows that? The defense does.
So it's interesting that both you and I say that. And by the way, we both say it like it is matter of fact. And yet you do see these stats that the Panthers are throwing the run to pass ratio. The Panthers are number 4 in the league in terms of the number of passes thrown. And I understand that like screen patterns are a part of that, but boy, it does seem like they should be
how many
making
past
more
the line of
progress on
scrimmage, right?
it does seem like they should be making more progress down the field if that is true, not just a letter, but in spirit.
Go this
right?
way, this way, not this way. That way.
We need our air traffic controllers on the ground in the end zone.
Or you could go this way even. You could go around.
Sure.
Around and through. Around. Just don't go just here. Or definitely don't go here.
Do you think that some of the lack of creativity in the run game, do you think some of that is affected by the fact that, like, clearly Laviska Shenault has not been healthy all year? Otherwise, I feel like we would have seen him more.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so. But I don't know that like, it's hard for me to look at Laviska Shenault and just say, oh, well, that's the answer. You know what I mean?
For sure.
I just don't. I mean, when's the last time? I mean, McCaffrey was the last great back they had. I understand that in the NFL nowadays, you don't need a dominant running back necessarily, but if you're not going to have a dominant passing attack, then it helps, you know. Well, and maybe that was their attempt with the Sanders situation, but he just does not. Even if he was a little banged up at the beginning of the year, he's not that guy either. So now what?
Yeah, I mean, like, you can look back at the history of Miles Sanders. He had last year. That's it. Like, there was a reason Philadelphia was not aching to bring that dude back. He had last year that he looked like that. I do think it is disappointing that there was not, like, you're right, it's not necessarily imperative to have a dominant bell cow back anymore.
But if you pay one like one, you would hope, you know, but again, is he playing hurt? I don't know. You know, I'm not going to throw him under the bus too much because they got a lot of other problems, but
there is in theory, skill set similar to Christian McCaffrey and Miles Sanders, just certainly not to the same level.
Of course.
And with that being the case,
although he drops passes like crazy.
He certainly does. I'm surprised there wasn't looking even further back in Panthers history to that sort of thunder and lightning approach they had with Stewart and D'Angelo in the mid.
Don't put me in my feelings today, Demetri.
I mean, I don't know. It just feels. And look, I think this is probably the point of this podcast this season is it doesn't have to be this bad, and yet it is every week.
It really doesn't have to be this bad. No. But I mean, it is, like you said, it is. And so we just kind of have to acknowledge that it is what it is. But you're right, I think, to acknowledge that the run game hasn't been good enough either. And I think it's just all tying in together, like you said, though. You know, I mean, it's one of those things where it's not that they're running too much. It's like when they're running. That's the problem. Right. You know, it's very predictable. You always know when they're about to run it, I feel like. Don't you?
Yes, absolutely you do. You know exactly when they're about to run it, and you know where the ball is going when they run it.
Yes,
it's just a matter of to which side of the center is this run going to go. Before we dive into our next topic, I do want to tell you, by the way, the whole idea of it doesn't have to be this bad. If that describes
don't say that, it always gets worse.
No. If that describes the decorations on your house at Christmas, let Lauren and I help you out. We are asking you to do us a favor, and we are going to pay you back in return. Wherever it is you get this podcast, YouTube, your favorite platform, whatever, like, review, and subscribe to the show. Send us proof that you wrote a review to the oggoesdigital@gmail.com. Also, send us a picture of the front of your house, and we are going to pick somebody in the triangle, and Lauren and I will decorate your home for Christmas. We do need to see the front of your house so I can get an idea of what it is we are working with. But We thought this would be a fun way to spread the Christmas cheer. It also helps spread the word about Young Gun. So if you've not already liked, subscribed, and left a review, please do so. We certainly want to make your holiday season a little bit brighter, but we need you to scratch our back so that we can scratch yours. Lauren Brownlow.
Yes.
I request that we talk about anything else to end the show this week. Not the Panthers, not Bryce Young, not how much the majority of this fan base wishes they instead had SamHowell or CJStroud. I just don't want to talk about football anymore.
I understand that. I want to say one thing real quick, though, because I said the Commanders quarterback that was where quarterbacks go to die. I mean, the Panthers, too. So, I mean, I can't say that that's not also true in Charlotte. I wasn't meaning to imply that whatsoever, that the Panthers do not also kill the hopes and dreams of once promising young quarterbacks.
Even I guess this is true of both franchises, right? Even the best quarterback in their history. Yeah. That same franchise is what took them to their bitter end in the NFL. All right, Lauren. So you and I both had a weekend at the movies, and we both, unbeknownst to the other one, saw the exact same things.
Yes. Well, I would like to think I inspired you to see the first, but maybe not. Maybe you were already going to see it. The Killers of the Flower Moon.
Killers of the Flower Moon. I definitely, it had been on the, like, where do I find 3.5 hours to go watch this movie?
That was my issue.
And then Lauren was texting me about it. And so I just decided on Friday night, I'm going to go to the movies and watch Killers of the Flower Moon. Beyond excellent. Excellent.
Yes.
Martin Scorsese at 80, A, still got it. B, has certainly figured out who the people are that can best translate the vision in his head. Because if I told you Southern oil baron, Robert De Niro is not who springs to mind.
No, probably not, actually. No, but he loves working with De Niro. He's always going to have De Niro, in kind of a major role. And look, you got to get past the Southern accent, but I think De Niro makes that kind of easy.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like Al Pacino doing a Southern accent.
No, it's not that bad. I mean, it's more just like occasional words. You're like, wow, that was literally New York accent, but that's fine. Right. And plus a lot of people botch Southern accents in movies. It's infuriating, but it happens all the time. This was a less offensive botching. And it's not, you forget it too, because he's also kind of a phony person in general in the movie too. So you it kind of works in a weird way. He was great. So quietly sinister. And Leonardo DiCaprio, that's what you and I kind of got us talking too, was about how great he was, but also Lily Gladstone as the female lead, just excellent. Honestly, she was spellbinding to me. Like every time she was on screen, I'm just staring at her. Like she was so perfect. And I think Scorsese met her on Zoom once and was like, she's the one. And she wasn't obviously she wasn't a super well-known name or anything, but he knew she was the one. And he was right. And it was a really special movie. I think he put a lot of care into it. And you could tell in terms of the subject matter and making sure that he dealt with it in a way that was respectful to the people and the families that went through it.
I think one thing that you and I talked about, and I shared this theory with you Saturday after I saw it, is you said this is a horror movie. Like it's a drama, but really what this is a
I was tense the entire time.
Right. So I didn't feel that way. I mean, I certainly understand why you did. I didn't feel that way watching it in real time. And it dawned on me Saturday that there is something, if you are a Native American, or if you are a woman, that hits very differently about this movie. And I think it's designed that way. I really do. I think the fact that you walk away saying this is a psychological horror movie, and I say, well, I see why you say that, but I didn't feel that way. I think that's part of Scorsese's genius at play here.
Yeah, I mean, it can be different kinds of movies to different people, but it can still have a similar, impact. And I know, I mean, Lily was actually tweeting about, take care especially if you're Native, because it can be a very difficult watch. And some people were, some Native people were even saying it was a little too much. And I understand that because the brutality in it is treated in this almost matter-of-fact way that I think it's effective because it's jarring how matter-of-fact it is. And I think it sends the larger message home that that is how those people were, that they were treated by those people, was that it was just a matter of fact thing. They didn't matter. And it was,
go ahead.
No. I mean, that was, but you feel this constant sense of danger. I feel like the entire movie, because of the people you care about, you grow to care about in the movie, and you're just like, they can't trust that guy. Like almost every white person, you're like, don't trust them. Do not trust them.
I would say this for anybody that has seen Killers of the Flower Moon, and I say this like acknowledge it up front. Dark Winds is not as good as Killers of the Flower Moon. The first season is on HBO Max. It is a good follow-up, though, because it is a different era of history, and you get that same narrative of here's a vulnerable population that realizes what they are fighting against is it's not the white man, it's not the US government, it is the overbearing notion of we just do not matter. So I walked away from Killers of the Flower Moon thinking a little bit about Dark Winds, and Dark Winds has it's a murder mystery, but it's also got a supernatural element, so it's not the same thing at all, but that same sense of dread, of resigned dread, hangs over the movie the whole time.
This movie was also beautiful.
The show. Yeah.
If you're a film nerd, like the moment that when the Osage struck oil in the beginning, that part, I was like, my mouth was wide open. It was stunning.
Somebody listening to this or watching on YouTube will put in the comments, I cannot remember the woman's name, but Scorsese has worked with the same editor going all the way back to Goodfellas. And there is a reason. Like, this woman, he just trusted this woman to really make the visuals not only pop, but flow perfectly from one holy shit to the next.
Yeah. He still has a little montage in him, which in a good way.
Of course.
You know, it was, and then like just the way, I mean, the looks on everyone mattered in the frame, right? Yeah. Like it was all a part of the larger, there was no wasted detail. Like everybody that she walked past would have a certain demeanor. Like it was just, you know what I mean? It was really powerful in that way. And it really hits home on a lot of issues, I think. And I don't know. I didn't know how I was going to walk out of there because I was like sobbing for like the last half of the movie. But I did.
So one of the things that we asked each other was, is this Leonardo DiCaprio's best performance?
It's weird because it didn't start out that way for me either.
Yeah.
Like it grew as the movie went along because you could tell he knew when to defer to Lily Gladstone and really like let her shine as well. Yeah. But when it was time for him to pick up his, like he did just that. Like he was the tension, just every little detail of his performance was so good in this movie. And it did get us talking like, what is this his best performance? And it's hard with Leo because he is legitimately a great actor, like one of the best I think either of us have ever seen, right?
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
But
I would tell you that I think in terms of where he is at his very best is being just a charming monster. And the charming part is missing in this. So even though it's very good, I think that Wolf of Wall Street and Catch Me If You Can are two, like, man, that is the full 9 yards of Leonardo DiCaprio in terms of performance.
But in a way that's like easier, right? Because it's more fun.
Sure.
And so that's why it's the degree of difficulty part for me that makes this very impressive because it's not fun to play this weak bully man that like has nothing, you know what I mean? Like it's not bully man, like being bullied. I mean, like kind of getting pushed around, no mind of his own kind of thing. It's not fun to play a guy like that either. Necessarily, but you see it all over his face. It was kind of a turn for him. And then but I'm with you. I mean, I thought Django was a really good performance for him. For sure too. I would put, and then you got to look at Gilbert Grape. I mean, I know it was a long time ago, but I thought he took a lot of care with that role, even for that time, where not a lot of actors did that.
I will tell you a story about what's eating Gilbert Grape. My mom's cousin is a makeup artist in Hollywood, and for years was Johnny Depp's personal makeup artist. She did everything that Johnny Depp worked on, including What's Eating Gilbert Grape, and she was physically like shaken by the fact that Leonardo DiCaprio did not actually have Down syndrome when she met him, upset because she was only doing Johnny Depp's makeup, right? She wasn't doing the whole cast, but you're right. It was such a human portrayal of that condition. in a time when we really didn't do that in the early 90s, right?
No, there are some very problematic films with trying to portray that.
Yes. The other movie we both saw was TheMarvels. Like it's not that bad. It's not great, but like Marvel movies just aren't great anymore.
Yeah, and I mean, I would argue that they were never like great to begin with. That's just me.
No, I'm with you. I think there are great ones. I am with you. I don't think that.
Yeah,
is
I loved Black Panther. For one,
I think the first two Guardians of the Galaxy movies are
those are some of my favorites. Yeah,
that came out.
Agree. Okay, I would put those up there as well. Yeah, but like the ones that everyone was like freaking out about, like Infinity War and Endgame, they did nothing. They didn't do much for me.
Yeah, I'm with you. I enjoyed Endgame. When we got to the end of Infinity War, I thought, so nobody died that isn't obviously coming back. That feels like a big waste of 3 hours.
I was furious.
Okay,
I was furious.
Thank you. I also was furious. Two things real quick that the Marvels gets right. Number one, runtime. I don't need 2.5 hours to 3 hours to hear
the weird
same
thing
story.
Is it felt longer than that to me. Maybe because the first half kind of drags.
The first half really does drag, but this is the other thing. It's so rare that those kind of movies, because you know the beats, you know where they're going, get better as they go along, and the Marvels did.
Yeah, it did. No, it did. By the end, I was enjoying it. And I was going to say, like, I was interested in some of the storylines because I loved WandaVision, and I know Professor Marvel or whatever they settled. Isn't that what they call her? Is that what they settled? I don't remember. And that's the other thing too. Like I don't remember this. I don't remember what this means. I don't remember who this is.
I tweeted this out last night. It's a problem that I never knew the name of the bad guy. No idea what the bad guy's name was.
Yeah. No. And I didn't care. Like, I was like, are we really doing this bad guy again? Like, ugh, we get it. Like I just it was tired to me. I'm like, we get it. Like the person that is mad because they just, somebody destroyed their land trying to save someone and they're going to hold a grudge forever. Okay, whatever. We get it. Like, fine.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm over it.
I'll wrap on this.
Just have someone that's just evil for fun.
It's the same problem that Disney movies have now, right? Yeah. Like I get it. Self-doubt is the bad guy.
But motivation?
That's what I said. But where's Ursula? Right? Like that's the best villain.
Ursula's just out there taking advantage of idiots.
God love her.
I mean, sorry. Read the contract. It's a bad contract.
The greatest coup for the MCU is to have somebody as talented as Brie Larson in a role as inconsequential and dumb as Captain Marvel.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I just don't really get, I'm like, okay, so is she super powerful? Can she like beat everybody? Like so why can't she beat this? I don't understand it. I will admit to you. I don't understand it.
I don't really either because I wasn't a comic books person, but I enjoyed the first Captain Marvel. My daughter loved the first Captain Marvel. I think it is one of the prettier looking MCU movies.
And she's great. Yeah, she's amazing.
And she's awesome. Like we're talking about great performances.
The three women in this movie are great. Yeah, like they're really fun and likable.
Yeah, we're talking about great performances. If you haven't seen Room will destroy you. Oh my God.
I haven't, and I'm very concerned.
Brie Larson is so good. Like,
okay,
since I've been reviewing movies professionally, that is without a doubt the best acting performance I've ever seen.
Really? Because I was like trying to think to myself, like, who made an impression on me the way Lily Gladstone did, like in a role. And I kind of was like going all the way back to Natalie Portman and Black Swan. Yeah. Almost, which I thought was amazing. And so if we're talking that level, then maybe I do need to see that movie at some point. I know it's a tough watch, but I just did Killers of the Flower Moon. So
yeah, it's not that tough a watch, right? Like Killers of the Flower Moon, I put in the same category as I put like 12 Years a Slave, where it is amazing. I totally see why people hold the movie.
I would watch it again,
and I never want to watch it again.
I hear you and I get why, but I would almost, just because like there were some moments in it that were still like so unreal to me that I almost want to go back and like, now that I know a little bit more, like look for those more than I did when I was just kind of absorbed in the story at times.
Yeah, I also want to get to the bottom of Killers of the Flower Moon. Why so many Americana musicians make up this cast, like Jason Isbell,
See, you noticed all of them. I didn't
Jack
even notice
White,
for some reason.
Charlie Musselwhite, Pete York. I mean, there are so many. Okay, we are way off the reservation right now. Boy, that's a terrible term to use as we are talking about Killers of the Flower Moon. But the fact of the matter is, at this point, kind of over talking about the Panthers. I know I know it's part of the deal, but man, they give us nothing to be happy about week in and week out.
I mean, I stopped watching them last year because they made me upset.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it is what it is. Now I can just laugh at them. That's what I try to do.
Well, see you later, everybody.